Hi there and welcome back to Circuit the World. My name's Alice and today we're going to the zoo. I haven't been to the zoo for so long, but what this is also really the opportunity is to go and see kind of their COVID measures, see how they're doing things. So I wanted to bring you along with me, firstly to just bring you along because who doesn't love going to the zoo, and secondly because if there's anybody else going to the zoo, so you can kind of see the measures that are in place, the protocols, so if you are going then you kind of have a know about what you're going into before you go. The zoo I'm going to is Colchester Zoo, so all of the precautions there will be Colchester Zoo specific, however they may be the same in other zoos, I'm not sure. But let's go check out the zoo and see what's happening. Okay, so we're in now. We had basically a half-hour arrival slot, so you get that. You don't have to, there's no like designated time you be in, you just have to arrive at that time. It's just a stagger entry. Wear these when you're inside, and when you're outside you don't. I don't even be wearing it now, but I have only just come outside, so at the moment it's pretty normal apart from having to put a face mask on and off every now and then. So. So what I have found is that, albeit you can take these off whilst you're in outside areas because you're so frequently in and out, I do tend to find that I'm just leaving it on. The time you've taken it off, you're putting it back on to go in. The only thing I would say about the face mask is it's 9 times out of 10 it's perfectly fine. You don't really notice it or anything, but when you go into certain areas, like for example the orangutan and yeah, it's the orangutan area with some tropical fish, because the temperature in there has to be at a certain temp for the animals. It does get quite hot quite quickly, so it was slightly uncomfortable, but apart from that it's pretty much been fine.
So that was that. That was my fun day at the zoo. I had a great time. The weather held really well. It was a little bit windy for us, but overall it was a pretty good day, which is nice to go. I haven't been to the zoo for about a year and a half now, so it was nice for me to just go back to the zoo. What I'm going to do now is just kind of talk through the day, talk about some of the obstacles that were there, some things that were different, some things that really weren't. And just kind of talk through it and kind of give my reflection in case you go, and just to give you kind of some tips, some heads up about some things, to let you know how it goes. So when we got there, we had a half-an-hour entry time slot. That's basically just to make sure that not everyone rocks up at 9 AM and floods in and there's a load of queues and things. But once you're in, you don't have to leave within a certain limit of time. You're pretty free to go whenever you want. And they have a restricted number of tickets they'll sell per day, per half-hour slot. So we opted for the very first slot, which was 9 to 9:30, which for me, I wanted to go and make sure I had all the time in the world to just wander around and not stress about having to get done quickly or anything. It was pretty simple. We had a little bit of a queue when we got there. There's loads of signs and everything up to kind of tell you what to do, and there's loads of arrows and things and little paw prints on the floor to tell you which direction you should and shouldn't be moving in. Only biggest real change is that you have to wear the face covering or a face mask whenever you're inside an indoor enclosure. So for the majority, if you've ever been to Colchester Zoo, you'll know this, but for the majority of the first kind of half, I'll say, a lot of the zoo is inside and then outside, then inside and outside. So what we found we were doing, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is just leaving the masks on during that time. It was also slightly comforting because there were some people who weren't necessarily following the rules as strictly as they should have been, or some people just getting very close and personal and running around and stuff. And when it gets busier, I can understand it a little bit, but there were a few times we were in quite a big group of people and I was quite glad to have the mask on. I just felt safer with it on when I was in those crowds of people, which was a benefit of leaving it on. My mask wasn't too uncomfortable. There's a whole video on that mask. You can find it in the card up above. Overall, it was pretty fine. You are kind of shepherded a certain direction because they obviously want to keep people moving around the zoo a certain way. There's a couple of moments where you have a choice to go left or right to bring you kind of back to the same point. There are some points where we were kind of doing a little area and making sure we'd done all the routes and gone everywhere we want to go before you go on, because it's not really possible to come back certain ways. Once you've gone, you can, but you kind of have to go all the way around to get back to where you were. There's no live interactions with animals, there's no live shows or anything, which was a little bit disappointing because we would have gone and done the Birds of Prey show had it been on, but there was none of that. None of the live feedings with the zookeepers. Just to stop big crowds of people hovering around, I think, is the main reason behind that one. The Rainbow Room, is it called the Rainbow Room? It is now. It's got these rainbow birds in it where you can walk through and you can get a little pot of nectar and you can feed the birds. That was really cool. As you saw earlier, I did that. That is open. Also, the walking with the wallabies, that's open, as you saw. And the walk around with the goats and the farm animals, which we didn't do, but that was also open to do. So some of the interactions with the animals, I think it's where you're interacting with animals and you're kind of moving around and you're not going to be staying in one group for a while. They're all open, so it's more to prevent the whole blocking up of people in one space. The butterfly room was closed, but I'm not entirely sure if that was just because it's being renovated or not, because we saw some what looks like new glass screens in there, so that might just be works as to the reason that's closed. But the underground penguin area was also closed. They're the only two rooms or places that I note that were closed, because they're the only two that I wanted to go to that I couldn't go to. Everything else it is possible to go to. You can't go into the Africa section up the hill like I would normally do. You kind of go all the way around Africa and then come in the back, as you saw us do, but it is possible to go inside everywhere else. Food vendors and stands are still perfectly the same. Again, just once you're inside, the face mask goes on. Once you're eating, the face mask comes off. We didn't go into Penguini's, which is the restaurant at Colchester Zoo, so I can't speak on how that works, but I assume it would work very much the same in which most restaurants do at this time, which is you wear the mask going in, but once you're at your table, you may take it off, because obviously you have to eat and drink. It's quite hard to do with a mask on your face. Only other thing is, at the moment, they are forcing you to go through the gift shop at the end, which they always encourage you to do anyway. But the problem is, because of this, because they have limited numbers of people that can go into the gift shop, it's the one place we ended up queuing. Well, I couldn't see any return wristbands, and when we got to the place where you would get them, the station looked quite close. So I don't think they're doing the return wristbands at the moment. I did get a little friend. He's Ralph. He's my red panda. The zoo popularity in itself, I would say it was less busy than normal because we went in the middle of August, in the middle of the summer holiday for the kids usually. So normally it would be a lot more busy than it is. We did find as the day progressed on, obviously it got more busy because more people were arriving and showing up. So it does get busier. I wouldn't have said it ever felt crowded, but I wouldn't have ever said it ever felt empty, even at the start of the day. So I think they're doing really well, and I do believe they're getting a lot of footfall. Any advice I'd have, you don't need to take your own food unless you wish to. There's plenty of coffee stops and vendors open. Things open at different times throughout the day. Example, the Madagascar train was not running in the morning, but by the time we got to it in the afternoon, it was running. I think that started running just after lunchtime, about 1 o'clock. So some things aren't running all the way through the day. Some of the coffee stops and some of the little shops, the food vendors and stuff weren't open, but the one by the stage, as you go in, kind of go past Penguini's and then to the right, there's a little coffee stop there near a stage that's near the indoor picnic area. That one was open from the start of the day because that's where we started. The one down the side where I would normally go by the play area. Obviously, if you don't know the zoo, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about, but if you do know the zoo and you're planning to go, hopefully this will help. The coffee shop that's down the side by the play area near the information area as you go in, that wasn't open in the morning, so we did have to go down by Penguini's to get coffee in the morning. But most things do open. You can do the underground sea lion tunnel like you saw, we did that. It's all fairly there. The only things you really miss out on are the keeper interactions and the live shows and the underground penguin section, but pretty much everything else is there. Just make sure you take your face masks. Hand sanitizer is always a good thing to have, but there are a load of sanitized stations around the zoo at various points that you just stop at. So yeah, plenty there. I think it's definitely worth a go if you want to go to the zoo. It's definitely worth it. You don't really feel the difference, especially when you're out the back behind the wilds of Africa, because there's no inside section, so you can pretty much take your mask off and just carry on as normal if you so wish, or you could do what we do, or did, sorry, and just leave them on. It's entirely up to you. But I would definitely say go to the zoo because I think it's a great day out and they've done a really good job in making it COVID secure and as comfortable as it can be in the situation. It can only get better from here, so hopefully moving forwards they'll be able to reduce some of those restrictions. Hopefully we'll be able to go into some of the rooms we haven't been able to go into yet, and the zoo can kind of pick up. But please, if you feel like going to the zoo, do go, because all of your money and all of the profit margins and everything, all of your ticket money and anything you spend and buy in the zoo does go straight back into the zoo to help keep it running and help it going. And obviously, like any other business that's been through any other business at the moment, everyone's feeling the suffer from COVID and is feeling the financial strain. But things like the zoo need the money to keep going, to keep looking after those animals. So if you want to go, please go. It's definitely fine. It's perfectly easy to do, and you don't really feel too much different. You can easily stay away from people because, like I said, it never felt too crowded. I never felt like I was in a bunch of people. And the play areas are all open for your kids. If you have kids and you want to take them and you want them to have somewhere to go, the sand making, little sand models, that's open to do as well. And obviously the rainbow birds, you can go in there and feed those, no problem at all. Just have to have the face mask on when you're inside. So I hope you go to the zoo, and if you do, let me know how you found it. Let me know if it was great, because it was sure great for me. And please go and support your local businesses, especially in times like this, because it is difficult for everybody, but every penny counts to helping people get back to normal. But for now, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been an absolute blast as always. If you enjoyed this video, go show that like button some Ralphie love. And if you want to support the channel, go hit subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss next time I upload a video. Stay awesome, and I will see you all in the next video!
Gonna name you Sydney. Very, very original name I've come up with there.